All right, hello, welcome to the Modern Thought Room. My name is Jethro. This is the fourth episode in a series of five on how teaching is one of those skills that is overlooked when we consider our personal development and professional development, right? So, this episode specifically, we talk about how teaching, in fact, is both a skill and a gift, a skill and a gifting. Right. So first, teaching is a skill. It's something that you can go and pick up and learn. So you can practice it. You can take a course for it. You can read books about it. You can get mentored about it. You can get taught how to do it. It's a actual skill. There are X's and O's. There are different forms of pedagogy. There are different methods. There are different approaches, what have you, different cultures around teaching. um, there's a lot for teaching that make it a skill and that it's sort of like an accepted skill, right? And it's something that once you determine, okay, this is an area where I can improve, again, as you think about your personal development, your professional development, it's an area that you can then now start setting goals for, that then you can kind of start reaching those little benchmarks for yourself so that you can kind of ultimately make an improvement in your ability to teach, which is really about communicating information and sharing knowledge, sharing skills, and sharing or helping bring about mindset transformation. Um, so teaching again is a skill. Teaching specifically is a hard skill, right? So it is a tangible skill that people can in a way measure, right? Because teaching is about sort of outcomes, results. You taught somebody something, they went and implemented it or used it, and they produced XYZ results, right? So good leaders who are able to teach are able to develop those that they are responsible for at a faster clip than those that aren't as talented. So one of I think for me, one thing I think about is for soccer, there are soccer academies that are known for teaching their players the game in a really robust way, where not they're not only just becoming physical beings, but those players that graduate from those types of academies, have some of the highest soccer IQ. They have some of the most technically sound soccer or footballing ability, and they go on to be great professionals very often. So you think about Barcelona's academy, you think about Ajax's academy, and many others, right? They have a hard skill teaching that they have developed in a sort of scientific way to bring about the development of these young players over years to then produce these high performing athletes. And that is a hard skill. Again, it's something that is tangible, that can be measured, that and again can be repeated and performed in a non sort of quote unquote subjective kind of way. The majority of it you can kind of see, measure, and as form. It's also a soft skill. So this is the subjective side. This is the side where things aren't necessarily the easiest to measure. And this one is, we'll use this one with the classroom example, where there it may be a student that they hear and they learn best from one teacher's communication style. Something about how that teacher communicates with them gets them to hear, gets them to understand, gets them to see clear, and they are able to um, learn more from them. And that could be something that has nothing to do with the strategies that the teacher's using. It could really just be something about how much that student respects that person, right? So that's something where it makes a difference and it makes it subjective, right? So same thing in the work environment. You may have a manager that you don't respect, or as a manager, you may have people that do respect you. There's definitely going to be a clear difference in who obtains information quicker and more readily than those that, for example, don't respect you or those that do respect you will clearly be able to pick up things a bit quicker and go on from there, right? So again, teaching is a hard skill. It's a soft skill. It's something that's refined over time, and experience is something that does kind of enhance it because you now witness some scenarios and you know when to use it, when not to use it, right? So with this one, what I think about is one thing that is sort of becomes like a source of discouragement, right? Is you feel like you have a burden or a willingness to share information, to share insight. The people that your audience, right, may not be receptive to it. And so you become discouraged, and then you decide, okay, I'm going to keep this to myself, right? And in that, what you do is you then stifle that ability in you, or you limit that because you do need those reps for it to kind of keep building, keep growing, keep right. And where that ends up kind of potentially setting you back is then when you do end up in positions of leadership where you are responsible for guidance, and it's a struggle, right? It's a struggle. And you have to now go and learn those skills, right? I think for most people that do work in corporate, America, the trajectory is usually different levels of accountability and or leadership at a certain point. So at some point, you're bound to be in a position where you are responsible for guidance. You're responsible for development, even though that you're not in a learning and development role. um, you will still be responsible for development. And depending on your environment, it could matter or could not matter, right? The problem is sometimes you're working in an environment where development doesn't necessarily matter, but there becomes a lot of frustration because people aren't developing. And that's something, again, to each context. Um, that is something then you'll have to kind of figure out where you are based on your organization and how much they actually value development, and then how the people around you are actually responding to opportunities to develop versus not, right? So again, teaching is about development fundamentally. Teaching is also a gift, right? So I said both teaching is a skill, a hard skill and a soft skill, but it is also a gift, right? It is also a gift, right? So I'm a Christian, so I believe that it is we are given gifts from God. If you have a different belief, then the gifting may come from a different source, but I believe that we get our giftings from God, specifically from God the Father, right? God the Father of the Trinity, Holy Spirit, and Jesus Christ. That specific God, you got to clarify. Um, and so that's what I mean by when I say gift, right? It's an inherent endowment of an ability that is innate. That's a little redundant, but I want to emphasize it, right? It's something that you have a knack for. It still needs to be nurtured and developed and built up, but you have a knack for it, meaning that you pick it up a bit quicker than others. And I think everyone has an area of gifting. Everyone has an area of gifting where they will outperform folks if they put in the same amount of effort as the person. So if you guys put in the same amount of training, the same amount of effort, you will edge them because you're gifted in that area, right? So in that same way, some people are gifted teachers, and so they are able to do that thing, which is teach and inspire, and it just seems to come naturally to them. And you might love working with them. They might be a person that whenever you have an opportunity to pick your project team, you can pick them. Why? Because they're able to explain things that are complicated. They are able to put things in a user-friendly language. They are able to also give you a feeling of knowledge and awareness so that you can then make decisions in confidence, right? So there is a gifting that is there present with teaching that is a little bit different than the skill that is acquired, right? And developed. Both still need to be developed. Don't get that twisted. Both need to still get developed, but the gifting, there's a little bit of an edge there that is not necessarily like something that the person just went and learned and picked up. All right. So that edge, right, is something that does make a difference, right? And it's a good thing if you do have that edge. It's something to acknowledge. It's something to acknowledge because that then can help you understand this is an area where I can lean into it in whatever space I'm in and take advantage of that ability. I think sometimes that is something that a lot of people, unfortunately, don't get enough endorsements for. Not just teaching, but I think a lot of working professionals have gotten to a place where they have a gifting, they have abilities that haven't really gotten enough in endorsements, and the endorsements made themselves chiefly not even endorse that key skill that they have that is a gift that can kind of set them apart, and that can ultimately lead to frustration and feeling limited. But that's a whole nother thing to think about, and encourage you that if you are someone that goes to work, you do your job and everything like that, and you feel like you're using your skills and your abilities, but you have an area of gifting that you feel is underdeveloped. It's an area that once you are employing that skill, that talent, that ability, that you are able to make a difference. I'd encourage you to investigate that and invest in that and see what you can do, because it's unfortunate. Ideally, you should have somebody already that's endorsed it, but if somebody hasn't endorsed it, you need to endorse it. All right. All right. And that gifting represents it represents an ability, right? And it's again something um, to capitalize on as you can, right? So when you think about your personal development and your professional development, don't overlook how you teach, your skill in teaching, your ability to teach. Think about it as a skill, and then also examine, is this an area of gifting, right? If it's a skill for you and not a gifting area, that is something you just probably just need to go and put in the hours in to build up. If it's an area of gifting, you also need to put in the hours to do it, but know that this is a difference maker for you. And why is that important? Because that might give you that leg up that you need in your whatever context you're in, so you can make an impact, right? Whole point of personal development, professional development, right, is to reach, and how I put it is effectively to reach or to come close to reaching that potential that we actually know we are capable of, but may not necessarily ever reach, right? Or haven't been reaching, right? Where we know we could be, what we know we could do, right? That is something that, again, when you're sitting down and you're evaluating where you are at currently, thinking about your ability to teach is one of those things that I think, again, gets overlooked because it it might not have the clearest runway, right, in the sea of skills, knowledge bases that you are already aware of, but in actuality, it's one that can open a lot of doors for you and build influence in whatever context you're in. So when you get a moment, sit down, think about the things that you have to do for your personal development, your professional development. And if you are someone that manages a larger team, think about talent development. What is your system for how you build the people that collaborate on your mission? right? What is that? And do you have a culture where people actively teach each other and actively build skills? Is that a culture? All right. So again, take your time, make that list, think about your personal development, think about your professional development, but do not overlook teaching as a big one to focus on. And specifically, break it apart and think about it as, is this a skill of mine or is this a gifting of mine? And then from those paths, go and investigate. All right. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you guys. Bye bye.